Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Into the Pit. I have here Mr. Ron Meyer. He is a filmmaker, I guess say documentarian. He knows quite a bit about Bigfoot, aliens. He's on Amazon, and he's got a project that he wants to talk to you about. And I've known him for a while. I'm really excited to talk to him. How you doing, Mr. Meyer?
I'm doing well, and you?
Man, I'm so good. I can't stand it.
So at the end of March, this feature film that I produced was released on Amazon Prime, streaming there now. It's called The Bigfoot Alien Connection Revealed. I'm going to hold up the DVD for people to see, just in case.
Gotcha.
I'm not buying DVDs that much anymore. What the heck? So it's been quite successful. It's been averaging about 3,500 people a day streaming it, which is not hard to believe that there are that many people. And the reviews kind of go right down the center. Half like it, half hate it. And it's largely because I'm proposing that the cryptids are alien in nature. They're not either a primate or some other form of humans like Neanderthal that running around, or maybe some wild men or something like that. But that they're alien in nature, and they're probably quasi interdimensional. This came about because I was hired to do a series about 5 years ago called Chasing Bigfoot, which is also streaming. Always been there for a long time. And I interviewed a lot of people, and they had contact with the series. And a number of them reported, that strange things happened when they saw it. It was transformational for their life. So one of the experts I interviewed was Jim Myers, the Sasquatch Outpost in Vail, Colorado. He said, I have a different view of Bigfoot. I think a lot of people that investigate this view eventually, because they never find Bigfoot in the sense that they don't see a body, they see footprints, they last for 4 or 5 steps, that's it. And he had people come to his shop and they report. That's what he does. He takes reports in the Rocky Mountains. And a number of these people reported incidents where the Bigfoot merged into a tree, disappeared, appeared out of nowhere. That they have properties that were physical. So he thought that they're not human flesh. They're not flesh and blood. There's some form of being an alien, but she wasn't quite sure. But he thought that they had access to interdimensional transport, which is one of their main characteristics, and shape-shifting into orb. And that got me interested. Wow, that's more reasonable, because I wasn't buying it. It was a creature that running around in the wild that nobody's ever really got real hard evidence that they exist in some physical form. Yet all these characteristics that people describe, you don't associate with people when they see gorillas or other animals that they shape-shift and change into other things, and that their contact has these profound effects on psychological and spiritual. So I decided, well, I did all this research, so let me write a book about it, a novel, which I did, and I was just beginning my research. So I came up with this book I'm showcasing. This is called The Bigfoot Singularity.
Yes.
And it's kind of a simplified version of the possibility that Bigfoot are alien creatures, and that they've been here for a while, and that it's a thriller, it's a sci-fi pure feature thriller, where the Bigfoot are moving towards an evolutionary. They don't really know why they're here. The interaction with humans are pretty benign. Follow the pattern. People talk of them. They have this strong relationship with Native people, which if you look at the literature, a lot of talk about a Bigfoot at some point in their culture and interacting with people. And that set me on the path. Well, I'm a filmmaker. Why don't I make a documentary to see how? But there must be people out there besides this one person that are taking the point of view that they are not natural creatures at all. They have this connection to in some way an alien nature. So I set about making a movie called The Bigfoot Connection Revealed. So did make it. Took me maybe a year and a half, and I met a lot of interesting people, luminaries like Stan Friedman. You know who he is?
Yes, actually.
You know, he's probably was the most famous UFOologist. I got him to participate in the movie. I think I did the last interview he did on camera last away a year ago.
Mm.
And he was open to the idea that there's something non-natural about Bigfoot. He made maybe he was joking. He said they're doing a heavy lifting or something. You know, he's a believer in contact experience. And then I began to see that there was I had to look at review the literature, the UFO literature. When I was a kid, I was fascinated with UFOs. I tried to put something at it, help them. But as I got older, I've always been interested in something like this. But there had to be other intelligence besides that. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, not to take away from the whole theory, but when I was first introduced to that idea that Bigfoot was an alien, and I don't know if you remember this or not, but you remember the $6 million man?
sure.
Okay, and the Bigfoot on there was from an alien planet, and it's kind of funny how life imitates art, you know, and vice versa.
So as I started looking into the pure UFO community and what research has been done, it seems like there are a lot of parallels between contact experiences people have with with aliens, which may be crafts, lights in the sky, some abductions. So there's a lot of interest in the Bigfoot phenomenon and the alien and the UFO phenomenon sort of occurred together simultaneously to grow right after World War II, which Friedman said had something to do with a set of atomic bombs. That changed how aliens might look at this planet. That we evolved to a certain level that maybe was dangerous to other species, other intelligence. I'm not
Yeah.
sure about that.
Well, I mean, I've noticed in a lot of stories that all these things seem to coincide in certain areas where you have UFOs, you have, cryptids, and you have all kinds of other paranormal experiences like ghosts, spirits, that kind of thing. I mean, there's got to be some kind of a factor that contributes to it.
Precisely. That became there was two themes to the movie that you would see develop throughout. One is that when you have one of these encounters with the Bigfoot or an alien contact, that these events are not accidental. They're, you were chosen to have. Uh, so if somebody's driving along and they see a Bigfoot run across the road, which is a pretty common experience, it wasn't that they lucked out and there was this creature running across the road. It showed up for them in particular for some reason. It's quite not understood, but it always has a profound effect. And they can show up anywhere. There have been reports of people seeing Bigfoot outside their window in a nice garden area don't have to be in the woods. And so, and the same for alien. That ordinary people are out in their yard, the light shows up above them, usually along with the driving. Police reports of this type of experience. And so they're all moving for people in some way. They change them a bit. And the idea is that when you have one of these experiences, you might get more if you're good, something that you don't freak out. That it in some way changes your consciousness, changes your worldview, which is pretty consistent with what people would report mostly. But if you're all freaked out, maybe that's it.
Well, there's been a trend over the last few decades where these kind of reportings are starting to surface a little bit more, that people are more open to the idea of this being possible. I know my attitude towards it has changed quite a bit, because when I was a kid, I was like, oh, that'd be so cool to see a Bigfoot. But then you get a little older and you're like, that's all just a bunch of fairy tales. But then you start hearing all these stories and seeing some actual evidence. It makes me question, hey, maybe there is something to this.
Have you had any?
I haven't. Now I've had, paranormal experiences as far as with like ghosts and spirits and that kind of thing. But and I've sworn that I've seen a couple of UFOs, but I have no evidence of it, and I just have, what I saw, and even then I question, did I see what I think I saw?
Did it have an impact on you?
It made me kind of open my eyes a little more.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always believed in aliens. I just thought, that was like a 1 in a million chance that I would actually get to see these things, but I've seen it a couple of times now. So it makes me wonder.
So you're one of the chosen. Lucky you.
Hey, I hope so. I'm ready for them to come get me and get me out of here.
Well, maybe that'll happen. So that's the first premise, is that these things are specific to individuals. And the next idea that's put forward in the movie is that there are these places that I call paranormal hotspots. I
Hmm.
referred to them a little earlier, where you have multiple paraphysical, paranormal events of different types occurring in a geographical area over a period of time, say maybe a year or half a year. And that there's usually a couple of people that are the central focus of these events. And in the movie, we traveled to 3 places to investigate these. First was Dulce, in Mexico.
Oh, yeah.
It's a famous place. It's in the past Apache reservation, quite isolated. And as you remember, the story is that it was actually a battle with the alien military force in a mountain that was supposed to be an alien base. How'd you like it? You have a cat.
Yes, somebody has joined in on the conversation.
Like,
she
do you
she
like the
is.
story of Dulce?
Yeah, this is my alien cat. She's my emotional support animal.
There you go. And anyhow, so I thought that was one of the first places, in addition to that one, people were reporting alien, typical UFO lights sort of stuff in connection with Bigfoot sightings. That was back in the 70s. That was when the guy still alive who started that investigation. So we went down there. We had to arrange to get a guide because you can't run the reservation by yourself.
Right.
Very tight about that. So we got an ex-policeman son who are the Bigfoot devotees. They had probably the most common of Bigfoot, which is maybe some sort of sound footprints maybe throwing a rock at you, this strong feeling of being watched, but visually not. Um, and both the father and son had that experience, made it to trying to have a direct experience, a visual experience. And at first, native people were suspicious and can't talk much. Eventually, they warmed up and they became wonderful guides. And the police officer, of course, knew the community quite well. Talked about, there was all this odd military activity around Dulce for no apparent reason because it's still with black helicopter transport, um, an occasional full, full outfitted guys driving. In the movie, he tells the story of one evening this van with two military people totally decked out in terms of like a salt gear. He stopped them because they were speeding for him. People down and looked around, looked in the van. There was a cage. They said, "Well, let us go and don't ever talk about it."
Isn't that always the case?
Yes. And so finally, he did talk about the event, that he had seen these two military people, full gear, and that something was in the cage, but he wouldn't say what it was. And he was quite convinced Kimmel was pretty.
So whenever you go out on these, do you ever get approached by people that tell you need to like nix all that stuff? Give you that warning of, you better back off or you're going to get hurt?
No, I mean like Men in Black stories.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
The only time I heard of that was we went up to the Montana vortex. I was on staff at what he would call the Men in Black visit there 3 or 4 times. But I had no problem with it. When I was on the reservation, I talked to a lot of people there, including the ex-sheriff's wife. She had her own experience. Everybody had their own experience, but they were reluctant to go on camp. Finally, we found something like the town crier of Dulce, and he sat down for an interview, talked about his own experiences and other ones, people book experiences. They ranked the whole gamut of stuff. And pretty much everybody's seen strange lights. There's a valley. There's a valley like this, and that valley gets lit up quite often. For no reason at all. Fully lit up. And Tim Anderson, he had video of something that he captured that he let us use. But we had no direct experience run on the Bigfoot hunt. What I did learn is that the sun, if you heard of wood knocks, that's
Oh, yeah.
food. And we're not doing chasing Bigfoot, down in real contact. We did wood knocks. We got a wood knock quiet very well. We got that on tape. And the kid could do a vocalization of the wood knock.
Really?
So my theory there is that if they're responding, they're not grabbing a stick, a tree, they're doing with vocalization. That's another characteristic. These encounters with Bigfoot is that they're able to mimic virtually everything. They listen to the Sierra sounds that were recorded by Ron Meyer, which you can hear a bit in the movie. And the range of what they can do is amazing. If those are real, they happen to nothing any known animal ever do. And they're pretty creepy when they do it. So if they can do all those vocalizations,
I got a quick question for you.
Sure.
Now, I know in the circle that I'm in with the paranormal groups that a lot of the different investigators, some of them get into like arguing and fighting, and you're not doing this right and you're doing this wrong, blah 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 blah. And instead of coming together as a family. Now, not everybody's that way, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of people out there that are really good and they believe in the whole community. But when it comes to those that go out and investigate things like Bigfoot and UFOs, is there like a lot of controversy between them, or they pretty much, you know, act as a community?
I would say there's a lot of division, and they all kind of hold on to each other. Right? The biggest division, the biggest is people don't believe in anything paranormal, right? Anything that's paranormal is just delusional or flies, bullshit.
Uh-huh.
So it's just people that get stuck by that. And then within the Bigfoot community, there of course the largest group is still people in the past, and they poo-poo everything, suggesting that something more and more.
Yeah.
For example, in the movie we interviewed Bobo,
Yeah.
um, and when they did the show, they were not allowed to show anything paranormal when it came to Bigfoot. It was just not part of the show.
Really?
Yeah, and so maybe for the first time on camera, he described one of his experiences that was totally paranormal, which is this is kind of typical. You hear this chomping in the field, across something big walking, feel a presence. In his case, it was like an orb, like carrying an orb. Like you're
An
carrying
orb?
an orb
Oh,
moving
wow.
with the foot. And everybody saw it, and but of course they couldn't film and talk about it.
Why not? That would make it that much more interesting.
Well, when you're doing a show, a series, you commit to a blueprint, as you might know. I mean,
Right.
every show has a blueprint, every series that you have to follow precisely. If you look at them, you can figure it out. And if you try and write for any series, they'll give you the Bible, and you have to follow it. And of course, then the goal is never to find the Bigfoot, because if they did, that would be the end of the series.
Yeah, I'm waiting for that day, though. I am waiting for that day.
So, so yeah, so Bobo described his on camera, at least that one incident, and off camera we talked about other ones he had. And his partner, investigative partner, Jeff Barack, the other side, tried to the guy to go to the hairy creature. So, so that division is pretty big and strong. People can fight with each other. I mean, I'm sort of a media person. I have a slightly different status,
Yeah.
so I have a little more cash.
Now, is there like any new types of innovative equipment that they're using nowadays, or it's pretty much the same old stuff?
It's pretty much the same old stuff, although people are using device that detects magnetic field distortion,
Hmm.
which are associated with these portals or vortexes where there are multiple phenomena occurring. So it seems like there's some distortion in the field, but the idea that there are places that are thin to the other side goes way back as part of Christianity.
Right.
Places Christians have that characteristic, so it's not unknown. Whole phenomenon of the paranormal in religion, quite lots of sacred places, right? All over the world. Probably got some the Alamo.
You just mentioned portals. Now, isn't in this document or this film? y'all are actually trying to open a portal?
Well, we are. My son-in-law, he's the co-producer. He was an early investigator in terms of looking for hairy creatures, but I sort of turned in terms of this other side of most of his experiences with bottled the patterns for physics. It was hard for him to admit that. He was always everything. This big hairy creature jump.
Right.
I'm feeling present, the eye shine. He's never seen the whole creature, never quite captured with the equipment. So the idea maybe is more like, let's invite them. Say we want to play.
Yeah.
And so in the movie we went to two places where that fit the bill for where there's a lot of paranormal activity going on at the same time. One was originated in a metal shed, which seemed to be the source of the opening of the portal. But we had, and the guy who owns it was an ordinary contractor from California who moved to a little town south of Eugene with grandchildren. And that he had never had any experience. But then things started happening. We had been doing big research. There was a track play nearby. A guy got publicity and they started playing around with the idea that something was going on in this guy's house.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they had, not only did they have Bigfoot prints, they started playing games outside, gifting with the way we gift the idea of gift. Things show up, they disappear, they come and go. A lot of that going on. And inside the shed, they would record. There'd be all this knocking, crazy stuff going on, like crazy, like some pain stuff. But there was nothing ever touched or moved. Um, they, and this ties into with ghosts. They picked up, they do these recordings,
Mm-hmm.
electronic voice, EMPs, and they picked up voices of speaking in foreign languages, women saying things, they recorded.
Oh,
And
wow.
at one point, in a good Bigfoot hunt, but at one point, the kid who grew up in the house with suicide on a particular day, and they were investigating, and the voice came through and said, I'm dead.
Oh, no.
And they found a little chalky handprint embedded in the house, and a piece of wood and with them, little blue handprint on the same bed.
Oh, my goodness.
Uh,
So can I ask you one more question? When it comes to this film that you've just put out,
yeah,
do you think it's going to change people's the conventional way they think of Bigfoot?
some it's beginning. It's beginning to have the attraction. I mean, the only way I can assess it right now is looking at the reviews. There are people that say, "Well, this changed." Looking at things different. So anyhow, last night we were there. We wanted to see if we could record something, demonstrate what was going on. So we took turns going into the shed with the rapping noise and noise going on. And finally, my son-in-law, who's a bit of a scientist, went in there. He had his own camera
Mm-hmm.
with infrared and audio, and it was a setup so that we could hear what was going on outside. And I went in there, pretty typical.
What, what was that again?
I went in there, but nothing happened.
Nothing happened?
When he was in there, the noises started occurring, and we could hear them And we could pick him up from the camp, and he could say, yeah, that's over in the corner. Oh, can't see anything. Yeah, there's another one. And he felt this kind of whole sense of being something coming over him at the same time. So we were to some degree able to document. That
Huh.
was cool. We actually got.
I was gonna say I was only gonna ask you one more question, but I got to ask you another one. You know that because of our atoms and things in our bodies that we're all on a certain frequency. Do you think that frequency is why a lot of people are able to see these things while other people aren't?
So I kind of go in a different direction. Do you want to hear?
Sure, sure.
So I kind of think that what our senses give us, our senses of vision, sound, all that doesn't pretty much everybody agrees that that's all made up in the brain. That you don't actually there's actually no chair there that we normally see it. That there's a deeper reality behind what our senses give, and that deeper reality is kind of where these paranormal or physical entities exist. That the best analogy is that if you look, the computer screen, you
Hmm.
see all these icons. You have a document, you put it in the trash. You haven't actually taken the document and put it in the trash at all. Behind that interface, is a bunch of code and electrons flying around. And in no way could you ever assess that reality and make sense of any document, anything for everything on the desktop. It's just too complex, right?
Right, right,
All mathematical. So pretty much every every great technological innovation going way back is in some way mathematically based. For example, have you ever tried to figure out quantum mechanics or totally you can't figure it out.
I barely can balance my checkbook, man.
But yet it all works. Your cell phone works, right? It's all
Right,
on mechanics and mathematics. And if you ask, physicists to explain quantum mechanics, they said don't bother, we can't do it. So, in some sense, space-time and objects don't really exist. They're like a computer interface. So when you experience these paranormal events, somehow it's breaking through from greater reality. What that reality is, we really don't determine periodically. Some people get a real deep mathematical glimpse. When they get that, then they create like quantum mechanics, learn how to build pyramids, and all these great achievements are all kind of mathematical, geometrical, that you have to think in a slightly different way than in normal sense. So
right.
that's my explanation.
Well, I lean towards that whole interdimensional, the different worlds and the parallels and the different dimensions as we're what in the 3D dimension, and I forget how many they say there are, but I'm ready to move on to the next one, to be honest with you.
So in one sense, the only thing that's really real to us is right now, our awareness, right? You're aware of something like to be you, right? At this moment,
Right.
that's all you ever have for now, right? If you think about it.
Well, I'm ready to move on.
Well, you probably will.
I'm waiting for that asteroid to hit us.
You know,
So, can you tell everybody how they can get a hold of you and where we can find your movies? And also, I will share the links to your movies in my posts. So,
yeah. So you just go to Amazon, type in Bigfoot Alien Action Reveal. It'll come up,
okay,
and if you're an Amazon Prime member, you can stream it for free. If be much appreciated if your audience can do that. And if they're disclosed to some of the ideas, they could write a little review. That's great. But even if they say it's all bullshit, review is good. Yeah.
At least you know they watched it.
Yeah. And I think, there are bots that Amazon uses to manipulate what people give them ideas.
Right, right.
I think if there's a mixed bag of reviews, they know they're real. If they're all great or they're all poor, then makes sense to it.
Now the other one was Chasing Bigfoot, right?
Chasing Bigfoot.
Yeah, that's the one that I watched.
It's a lot older. I don't know what to think about it right now. So much since then.
You've moved on to the next level. Let's put it that way.
So what do you think?
Hey man, I'm very excited. Let's put it that way. I've actually talked about going on some Bigfoot investigations myself. I'd never even thought about it before, and then the more I hear stories and what's going on in the whole community, I'm like, hey, I think it's about time for me to get out there.
So also there's this. My son-in-law is putting on an event called the Bigfoot Adventure Weekend.
Uh-huh.
And it's 3 days in Colorado. Let me look here. It's the weekend of August 7th. And you go on night ops and get lectures. And I'll be there opening people up to having a direct experience of Bigfoot paranormal way. And there'll be other groups people who will be out hunting in a normal way, not in the including howling, night ops. He's been doing it in Ohio, which he's from very successfully. So if you'd like to come, look it up. I think I sent you a link to that too.
I think so. I'll put up all those links, and then you also can find you on Instagram at Bigfoot Singularity.
Yeah, by that.
And Facebook.
I have a Facebook page called the Bigfoot Chronicles. Some of my stuff. I'm not a big social.
I hear you. That's the way things are nowadays.
Yeah.
So Bigfoot Chronicles on Facebook.
Yes.
Okay. Well, sir, I thank you for your time. I really appreciate you coming on, and I hope that our viewers and our listeners will get out there and support your short film, and it's on Amazon, and I will provide the links just as a reminder.
Yeah, you should watch it and give it a good
Hey, if I can get past this weekend, I think I might be able to. my weekend is one thing after another.
Interested in what you think.
But I did watch Chasing Bigfoot.
Okay.
So you remember the last time we talked, I said I was going to do it, and I did it. If I say I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it.
All right.
Well, thank you for joining us, and for everyone out there that's listening or watching, we appreciate your support, and continue to support our videos and our podcast. Leave a review and spread the word. So thank you once again.
Be open.
Right. All right, everyone. Take care.
Po boy.